Well, it's officially been a day since I last played the game, so I guess I'll continue now. Also, I've done some more research on the haunted game since I've last played, so hopefully I won't be as clueless. On to World 4! Regna doesn't seem to be a very welcoming place. The music is very loud, kind of like the fire levels from Lane End. Oh, and since I did some research, I now know how to check the levels' names. They are Warped Forest, Execution, Dungeon, Red Temple, Cliffs, and Eruption. Yeah, something tells me this place isn't exactly going to be peaceful. The bosses are Obsidious, Mothra, and Ghidorah. I don't recognize any of them. I'm curious why the dungeon level is so far away from everything else, so I'll go there first with Mothra. The Warped Forest levels were pretty much identical to the forest levels from Lane End. There's another peaceful creature here. I'm guessing he's going to talk, just like the last one.
I am the messenger. You have defeated the prison keeper. I have rewarded you in the menu. Go there.
And he flew away. I assume Norin was the prison keeper I defeated. Or maybe not, I don't know. The level ended shortly after that, but I was sent to the menu screen. Oh yeah, I have no idea how I didn't mention this before, but when I started the game, the only option in the menu was Play Game. Extra wasn't there before, so I'm assuming it's my reward. Well, this is interesting. If you select monsters, you choose a character, and then a stage or boss, kinda like a debug menu. I decided to choose Mechagodzilla because, well, why the hell not? And surprisingly, it was a really fun fight. Nothing weird is even going on. What the hell is happening? I guess it just glitched up pretty badly. I'll try it again with a different monster. Second verse, same as the first. It even happened at the same time. Well, the monsters option is completely broken. Guess I'll just try the password and hope that that isn't also completely broken. Whoa, this is definitely not the normal password screen. This is just a bunch of symbols. How am I supposed to make a password out of this? Okay, it took me a while, but I think I figured it out. There are 10 symbols at the top and 26 other symbols, which I think equals the 10 digits and 26 letters of the English alphabet. Hopefully I'm right. I'll look up some passwords from the original game to try out. The sound test seems pretty much the same, except now there's a big black and white Godzilla sprite at the bottom. It's also only playing songs from the original game, but I was just gonna listen to the title screen music anyways, so it doesn't really matter. The Ghidorah code brought me to this. You play as the grey thing and have to bring those 3 heads the same coloured food. When they close their mouths, they're full. The game ends once they're all full. This was a pretty weird game. The Monster Zero code brought me to a glitchy stage where you play as Ghidorah. Not much to say here, it ended after like 20 seconds. The Destroy All Monsters code brought me to this unsettling sight. You control the blue crosshairs, and your goal is to shoot as many of the creatures as possible. I didn't play this for long, it gave me a really weird feeling. The start to end code brought me to this glitched up screen. It ended after like 30 seconds, so not much to say. None of the other passwords from the base game worked, so I guess it's time to head back to the actual game. Well, looks like my progress wasn't saved, but I only have to redo one level, so it doesn't really matter at all. First level was the same, but no messenger. Second level was a bit different though. There are things in the background that seem to be stalking me. And of course they jump out from the background to attack. Some of them seem to have already had a recent meal, which is a bit disturbing. The execution level is already pretty gloomy, but I'm not sure what I was expecting from the execution level. I'm not sure I like where this is going. Yep, didn't like it at all. Some of the severed heads float up to attack me. They're pretty weak, but very annoying. Sometimes the headless corpse stands up and walks around, but they can't attack me. The dungeon levels are, well, a dungeon. The music is also very medieval sounding, kind of like the castle levels from Donkey Kong Country 2. The first enemies I saw were these armored bird things. They're pretty standard, just flying in a wavy pattern near the ceiling. Oh yeah, there's a ceiling, which isn't in the original game at all. The next enemies I saw were these knights. It's pretty easy to avoid when it's just them, but when in conjunction with the armored birds, it's pretty tricky. This level was surprisingly enjoyable. Probably a mix of the music being pretty good and the last level being so disturbing. And another inhabitant to talk to. What's he got to say?
Who are you? Intruders are not welcome here. Whatever. Just take one of our prisoners and leave.
Then it brought me to this screen. Pressing left and right would change which monster was shown, and the monsters shown were all the bosses from the original game. I decided to choose Gigan because he's always been my favorite monster. Well, this is awesome. I get to play as my favorite monster now. Unfortunately, it seems like Godzilla's about to get cornered by two monsters, so I better get Gigan in there to help. Gigan's moves were a kick, a swipe with his claws, an eye laser, which could go all the way to the end of the screen, and extending his buzzsaw out of his chest. Now it's time to fight Obsidius. Obsidius is some sort of lava rock monster thing. His sprite almost looks too detailed for the NES, but whatever, he looks cool. He had the standard moves of punching and kicking, but he could also breathe fire, which did a lot of damage. When he's about to do it, the lava on his body changes colors, which would be great to know if Gigan could duck, but since he can't, it's pretty much unavoidable. Thankfully, Gigan's buzzsaw is strong enough to take him out pretty quickly. He did take a lot of damage though. After that, Mozora's piece moved towards Godzilla, so it's time to fight him now. Mozora looks kind of like a fusion between Ghidorah and Mothra, which I guess explains the name. His attacks were hitting you with his tentacle, which not only knocked you back, but could also damage you since he now had a drill on the end, and shooting Mothra's weird triangle fireball things out of his eye. He was essentially just a more annoying Ghidorah, but I beat him anyways. Now it's time to try some more levels. The next level I played was the Cliffs stage. It had a very eerie song playing in the background the whole time, which made the stages very creepy. The only regular enemies I saw were these dinosaur-looking things. They wait at the edges of platforms to try and knock you into the pits. Oh yeah, there's pits. They were also in the ruined stages in Lane, but I only played those with Mothra, so it didn't really matter. If you take too long, one of them will run up behind you to try and push you into the pits. It led me to making this pretty risky jump. Eventually I had to go into a cave, but now there's a wall in front of me. So where do I go? I see. The heads in circles move together with each other, kind of like something you'd see in a Genesis game. Its only attacks were biting and breathing fire. Overall, not that tough of a mini-boss. The next level I played was the Red Temple, and it was even creepier. The music in the background was like something you'd hear in a Zelda dungeon, but a bit more tribalistic? Is that even a word? 2 new enemies this time. A red version of the dinosaurs from the last level, but with no eyes, a horn, and it looks like they only have one leg since they just hop around. and a squid thing that floats in place and shoots electricity at you. Also, the skulls in the background are really creepy. Eventually I got to this point where the background changes to the cliff's background, which thankfully means no more creepy skulls. Shortly after that, I heard a loud, bellowing roar. I immediately hid behind a pillar. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was just pure instinct. But it's a good thing I did, because after that, this happened. I have no idea why, but this genuinely unsettled me. Thankfully, the stage ended pretty quickly after that, and there were no more roars. Well, nothing better to do now than fight Ghidorah. Weird how his piece hasn't moved the entire time, though. Jesus, Ghidorah is huge. A bit weird to hear the final boss music. It's so early, but whatever. His attacks are biting, kicking, and breathing fire. I can't get close enough to use the buzzsaw because his kicks do a lot of damage and push me back. And the eye laser isn't doing much damage either, so I don't think Gigan is the right choice. I'm back with Godzilla and he's doing way better. I just need one strong atomic breath to finish him off. And there he goes. Weird how he never used his wings the entire fight. And that crystal icon's there. Well, actually, it's called a prism, which I guess makes sense, since Norrin was called a prison keeper. I guess they'll show up in each world once I defeat every boss, I think. Or maybe it's something completely different. Anyways, I've still got one more level to try. So, play the eruption levels now. These levels are pretty similar to the Cliffs levels, except now everything's red and there's a giant erupting volcano in the background. There was also a timer at the top, and the music was very urgent. Combine all these things together and you get a very stressful level. Sometimes giant chunks of, I guess, magma fall out of the sky. They pretty much exist just to make you wait. Thankfully, if you destroy them, you get some health and power. Nothing much else to say about these levels. There weren't even any enemies. Which I guess makes sense. I wouldn't want to live next to a permanently erupting volcano. Well, I've played every level, beaten every boss, so there's nothing else to do but fight the Prison Keeper. I wonder what it'll be like this time. Well, it's not that much different. Pretty sure Malice is also just made up for this game. Almost immediately, Malice jumped to the other side of the screen and my Gigan sprite flipped to face the other direction. I know it sounds really dumb and obvious, but this doesn't happen in the normal game. This is also where I learned there's no battle timer in these Prison Keeper fights. So if you go in with the wrong monster, you're basically screwed. This is also where he showed one of his two attacks. He could breathe fire just like Obsidious, but Malice could actually aim it. His other attack was creating a flame between his horns and then shooting it towards you. You could destroy them, but they're so hard to hit since there's so much red on the screen. But this is where I figured something out. All of his attacks use power, so if I could just wait for him to run out of power, he'd be defenseless. And way I did, all he could do was jump to the two sides of the screen while I obliterated him with my buzzsaw. And after I beat him, it ended the same way as Norrin. Two prisons acquired. That white circle icon is back, where Ghidorah used to be. Can't progress to the next world until I beat it, so going in. It looks pretty similar to the tunnel from Lane Edge, but the colors are different and the background's completely black now. The only other notable thing is that when I got to the end, a pair of glowing yellow eyes stared back at me from the darkness. And that's World 4 done. I don't feel nearly as exhausted as yesterday, so I'll probably do a couple more worlds. Hell, maybe I'll even beat the whole game.